Hello everyone and welcome to the second video in the fifth module of this course. And like we did in the previous video in this module, we'll be designing actual flyers. This is the part of the course where we actually do the Photoshop flyer design. Today we'll be replicating this church flyer you are seeing on your screen. One thing however I would not be doing today is giving you a resource folder where you can just drag and drop into your Photoshop window. Today we'll be sourcing for every single resource we'll be using, because when you are designing on your own in real time, nobody is going to give you these resources. You have to know how to get them online yourself. So without further ado, let's get started. First thing, like always, is to come here and create a new file. Then pick a custom size 4x5 at 300 ppi for resolution, pixel per inch. Then just make sure artboard is selected, then click on create. So let me bring in the flyer we are trying to replicate. Alright, we have that set, so let us start from the text, increase. So I'm going to type that. Remember, when you are done typing, you can press Ctrl Enter on your keyboard to exit text editing mode, or you can, let's go back, you can just click on this check mark at the top here. It also does the same thing. So we are going to bring the 2, select the 2, bring it to the center, then increase the size. Alright, the fonts I used here, you can obviously see that these fonts are not the same, right? The font I used here is Satoshi. Now, how do we get that? If you were designing and you needed to use a font and you know the name of the font, probably from Pinterest, this is how that works. And we go to Pinterest. And let's say I'm looking for cool sans serif fonts. And then I get stuff like this. Oh, I see outfits and I feel like I need to use outfits, so I'll come online to search for outfit fonts, free downloads, and then you'll see websites where you can get the fonts. You can usually get most fonts that are open source and free on Google Fonts, so you just come here to get fonts. But here we are looking for Satoshi, so let's search for Satoshi fonts free download. And then we'll come to font here. We scroll down, review family, and we download family. Alright, so I'm going to save this where I can see it. You can decide yourself wherever you want to save it. Let's say church via resources. And we'll save it there. Alright, so we have it in this folder now. There's it, church flyer resources. Right click to extract. At this point you should be able to extract already. I've mentioned it in the previous video if you were following. And let's go in to fonts, OTF, then select all, right click and install. So it tells me Satoshi Black font is already installed. Do you want to replace it? I already have this font family installed. That's why I'm getting this one. It doesn't ask to replace. I'll click on yes and wait for it to install. Alright, now that we are done installing, we can go back to Photoshop, click on the 2 fonts, click on one, press shift, click on the second one to select the 2, then come to your text tool, come up here, change it to Satoshi, type in Satoshi, and you can click on any one for now because you'll be able to adjust the specific weight here. So I think it's thicker than medium, probably bold or black. Right, I think bold works. So bold is the size we used for this. Now that we are done with that, we can come back to click on our move tool, then Ctrl T while still selecting the tool, Ctrl T to increase the size. I think about this is fine. Alright, and that is that for the main text. The next thing we would try to do is to create this John 1:16 Bible text with the background. So let's come to our rectangle tool. What's the shortcut? U on your keyboard. Then you draw your rectangle. You can come to our properties panel here. If it's not black, you can change it to black. But we are not using black, so you can as well just change it at once. Now one issue here is I'm trying to use a color picker to pick this specific color and then place it here. But if I bring out the properties window, it's going to cover what I want to select. So one thing I can do is I can drag it out here and then return it, but that's not really necessary. If you are newer versions of Photoshop, you have this mini floating properties panel at the bottom here. So I can click on that, click on the color picker, I can drag the color picker and then select the color I want to pick, click on OK, and you see it's been selected here. Or another thing you can do is to come to your rectangle tool, U, so that this panel up here, remember I mentioned that it changes contextually, it changes depending on what you have selected. So I have rectangle tool selected. Now I get properties of the rectangle tool, so I can come here, the same thing, click on our color picker and then come here to select the color I want. There are like 3 ways to do the same thing in Photoshop. Just make sure you do it. Doesn't matter how you do it. Now let me increase the height of this a little bit. Remember how do you bring out your transform control? Ctrl T on your keyboard, and then let me drag it down a little bit here. I'm going to zoom in so I have more precise control. Yeah, this is fine. Now I want to type in the John 1:16 text. What do? I can duplicate this. How do you duplicate? Alt on your keyboard, then you click and drag. You press Alt on your keyboard, you click and drag, or you come to your layers panel, click on the layer you want to duplicate, then Ctrl G to create a copy and you drag out the copy. Those are the 2 ways you can duplicate a layer in Photoshop. So Alt and drag, then let me reduce the size. John 1:16. Okay, I think the width should be, I'm going to come to properties here, the width should be regular instead of bold. Right, so I'm going to drag that here, and notice the rectangle is above our text. That's not what we want, right? So we want to bring our text to the top. You can come to the layers panel here and drag it to the very top. For the shortcuts I mentioned, right square brackets. So Ctrl right square brackets to bring it a layer up, and you keep on pressing that until you get to the top. Ctrl left bracket to bring it down a layer. Ctrl right brackets to take it up a layer instead of coming manually to your layers panel to adjust that. So we'll zoom in, come to John 1:16 text, Ctrl T, reduce the size, so it's well balanced. In our rectangle we'll be using as the background. I'll select the 2 layers, align the centers horizontally and vertically. Alright, and after that we can group these 2 layers, the John 1:16 text and the background. I think this text is too big, so I'm still going to reduce it a little bit. Yeah, it's fine this way. Then I'm going to select the 2, Ctrl G to group, then Ctrl C to bring out our transform controls, then we'll rotate a little bit. Now notice my cursor, let me zoom in for you to see. When I'm at the edge of what I want to transform, you can see the way the cursor is, but when I move a little bit outwards, the cursor changes to tell me now you can rotate. So I can now click and rotate when it's a bit far from the edge of the item I'm trying to transform. That's how you rotate in Photoshop. Around this is good. That's 7.1 in case you want to be specific, or you have freedom to decide how much you want to rotate. And let's bring that here. Yeah, that's good so far. We are doing great. Okay, and let me bring this a bit closer to the lights, and we can select everything, bring it. Yeah, I think it's fine this way. Now the next thing we are going to do is to try and get this ant image. Now in the previous video I gave you the resources we used, but here we are going to be looking for everything ourselves online, because that's how you replicate from inspiration when you use Pinterest. Now what do we have here? What are we seeing? We have two ants holding a bridge. So we go to Pinterest and try to search for that. You can use free pick also, but I think I checked earlier and I couldn't get that image on free pick. It's only on Pinterest. Ants holding bridge, and there we have it. We have several images of what we are trying to do, but this is not going to work. This won't work. This won't work. Yeah, this actually looks very good, but there are people on it and I don't want people to be in the sign. Yes, I think this is the exact image. Yeah, this is the exact image. So we've gotten that. Let's click on this and download. And where do we save to? Videos. Just save somewhere on your PC that you can locate easily. Then come here, drag it into your Photoshop window and place it there. Alright, click on the check mark to place. Now we want it below every other thing. Actually, I think we should keep the background. I was planning initially to get another background, but this is good enough. So let's take this to the back of every single layer we have. Now you can see there's a bit of difference between what we have now and what we are trying to achieve. Now what can we do? Now what can we do to match the two? When it comes to things like this, there are several ways you can do it in Photoshop. So I can do it one way, you do it another way, and if you still achieve the same effect, it's fine. There are more than one ways to do the same thing in Photoshop. So I'm going to try color balance, and color balance allows you to add some yellow, some blue, allows you to add specific colors to your image. So where is color balance here? Remember, we'll come here to add an adjustment layer, come to color balance, and we'll start adjusting. Make sure you clip it into the image below it so that the changes only affect that layer and it doesn't affect every other thing on your artboard or canvas. Now what do you notice here? This is somehow more yellowish than what we have, so we'll try to add yellow to it. Now you can see it's affecting the wrong layer. We clipped it into the wrong layer. So what am I going to do? I'm going to unclip it, come to properties, click on this, then I'm going to drag it on top of the background because that's where we need it, and then clip it back into the background so that when I make the changes it affects the layer I want it to affect. So let me add a bit of yellow, and also notice this is kind of brownish, so what we want to add here is going to be red. Okay, let's add some red. Should I reduce the yellow? Yeah, I think this. We just keep adjusting till we get exactly what we are looking for. We are adding some red and some yellow to get that brown kind of effects. Yeah, I think this is good. This is kind of close to it. Let us add curves to it to make it a bit lighter. Or should it be exposure? Let me add a bit of exposure. Yeah, I think this works. Alright, and I'm going to clip it also, And one thing you can do when you're adding these adjustment layers is when you're done with the adjustments, you can select everything and the layer you're trying to adjust and click on Ctrl G so everything stays in the same place and you don't scatter it later by mistake. Alright, that is good. And you'd notice this gray text is behind this and. What we want to do is to hide this part of the gray text, to hide this so that it looks like it's behind the and. Alright, let's hide our John 1:16 group first. Let me rename it to Bible text. And I'm going to rename this to our background. So I'm going to this background group, click on my background, then click on the lasso polygonal tool. The shortcut is L, but make sure it's on lasso polygonal when you click and hold, because if it's on lasso tool, you would have to select by freehand, which won't work for this case. You have to make sure you're on polygonal lasso tool, especially for those of you that are using mouse. Then you come here and you start to select. One thing we can also do is hide our gray text. In fact, we can put it in a group, select the tool, Ctrl G, name it grace. Now we are going to hide that. But before I use the lasso polygonal tool, I'm going to use it. I want to explain what I'm going to do with it eventually. Now let's come to our grace text. Let's click on the folder, create a mask on that folder so that the mask affects everything in it. Now come to your brush tool, the shortcut is B, or you come here on your keyboard to pick it manually, brush tool. Then you use your square brackets to increase or reduce the size of your brush tool, so I'm going to reduce it. And now I'm trying to paint on the mask. Now when you paint on masks, notice I do not have the folder itself selected, I have the mask selected. Now when you are painting on mask, you paint white or black. When you paint white on a mask, you are revealing what's under that mask. When you paint black on a mask, you are hiding what's under that mask. Now I have black here as my foreground, the one on top is your foreground, and that's the color on your brush. Now if you have something like red or you have ash, any color you have here that is not black or white, just click on D on your keyboard to reset to default and X to switch so that you have black on top. Then you come to the layer you are trying to hide and you start painting with your mouse. Now when I'm painting, I'm not deleting this thing, it's still existing there, but I'm hiding it using the mask. So when I paint black, I hide it. Let me turn it to white. I can turn it to white by coming here. Let me zoom in for you to see. This arrow here, it says switch foreground and background colors, and the shortcut is X. So I can click on this to switch, and then I can use X to switch back and forth also. Now it's on white. When I paint, it reveals what I hid previously. So remember, when you are using masks, black hides, white reveals. Alright, so we'll go back to our lasso polygonal tool here. I should have hidden this John 1:16 text. Let me hide it. And I'm going to hide this grace text actually. Yes. So I'm going to make the selection again. Let's come here so that we can see it properly. I'll speed this up. Alright, now that we've gotten to the end, can come back here to close up our selection. Now when you're about to close it, you notice a little change in your cursor. There's like a little circle, a little change that appears on your cursor. That tells you you're about to close your selection. So when I click on that, I get this dotted line. It tells me I've closed my selection. So I'm going to come to my layers panel, unhide the grid grace I hid before. Then come to the mask on grid grace. Make sure it's selected, not any other mask. Make sure this mask is selected. Then go back to your selection, right click, fill. And what are we trying to fill it with? If we are trying to hide, we are trying to fill it with black, and black is at the background. So you come here, click on background color, okay. If black was in your foreground, you use foreground. Now you can see it looks like this grace text is behind the hand. Ctrl D to deselect. Now that we've done this, we notice that we need this grace text to come up a little bit. And if we go back to our move to V and we try to take this grace text up, we'll see that it doesn't really work and we'd have to make another selection again. But instead of doing that, there's a workaround. Come back to your layer. You can see this little thing that looks like a chain in between the folder icon and the mask. It tells you are linking the folder or the elements to the mask and they will move together. So when you click on it, the chain disappears. Then you can come to Grades and Grace, select the two. I would advise that you use your direction buttons on your keyboard for this, so you don't have issues moving it. Then move it up a bit, and this is fine. Yeah, this is okay. Now if you didn't get this, you can go over it again, but basically I would explain how a mask works one more time. Let's say I have a rectangle here. Let me fill it with a red. Now if I make a selection with my polygonal lasso tool and I select this part, now if I create a mask, now it hides this part of my rectangle square. Now come to your layer mask. Let me zoom in, and you are going to notice that this mask has a lot of black and that little white. That little white is what you are seeing here, and the black is what's hidden. Now if I click on Ctrl I to invert the mask, you see that the part that was white initially is now black, and the part that was black initially is now white, and the white part is now what you see, the black part is what's hidden. That's basically how masks work. So I'm going to delete that and we'll resume what we're doing. Now the next thing is this light flare that we have here. So I can come to Pinterest to look for orange light flare. Then you can select any of these. I'm just going to pick this, download image, save it to my folder, then locate it here, bring it into Photoshop. Now I need it to be on top, so I'm going to drag it to the top of my layers panel, change the blending mode from normal to screen, and I'm going to drag it down here like so. Alright, I think somewhere around this is fine, and probably reduce the opacity. Okay, now I don't need to reduce the opacity. What I need to do is hide some part of this flare from this text. You can see from our great grace that we are trying to replicate, this flare is not as visible on the grace text. So I'm going to create a mask on it, and I'm going to paint black. So select your brush tool, switch from white to black, X to switch from foreground and background, or you can just click on this, your foreground, then select black. Anyhow, any method you use works. So come here and paint on this bit. We don't want this effects to be this visible on our grace text, right? We are painting it out. Also there is a bit of it on grace. Alright, I think that's fine so far. And then we can unhide our Bible text that we hid initially. Yeah, put it there. Then the next thing we are going to do is to add the logo and the text. How do you get logos online in case you are not given? Most times logos are on Google, they are available on Google. So we are going to search for Christ Gospel Mission International, Christ Gospel Mission International. Then we'll come to images and we should be able to find the logo. Let's click on this. Alright. Luckily it will be a PNG. Let's right click, save image as, oh, it's a JPEG. Good. Now we have a JPEG, so we are going to use our mask to edit it. Click on the images, bring it into Photoshop like this, and then place. Alright, so let's bring it to the center of our design, and we don't need this white surrounding it. So what do? We come to our elliptical mark tool. Now it's around here, around where we have this rectangular mark tool. It's inside the same group, and the shortcut is M. So when you click on M, get to this mark tool, then you can select elliptical to be specific. Then you drag this over it. Don't worry if it doesn't cover the shape you want it to cover. Don't worry about that yet. Create a mask to mask it out. And what you are going to do is to unlink so that you can move the mask without moving the image itself. Now when I click on the middle, you see this link disappears, so I've unlinked it. And when I go to my move tool V, I can move the mask independently without moving the image. So when I see it's around where I want it to be at the center, even though it's still covering some parts, but I make sure it's centered because it's a circle. I'm going to leave it. Then Ctrl T to transform and increase the size of the mask to reveal more area. So I think this is fine. Enter. Then I'll move it a bit to the left. Alright, this is okay. So I can link it back so that when I drag this layer, everything moves together, both the layer and the mask applied to it. So Ctrl T to bring out that transform control, reduce the size like so, then bring it to the top here, reduce the size again. Yeah, this is fine. And then we want to type this text, Christ Gospel Mission INC Central Youth Fellowship. So C to bring out our text tool, click on your artboard, reduce this to, it should be regular or maybe medium. Then the size should be around, let me just put it at 14. I'm going to reduce later. V to go back to our move tool, bring it here. Then edit the text, Christ Gospel Mission INC full stop. Control Enter to commit, or you click on the check mark that you saw on top there. Then you duplicate this and we type Central Youth Fellowship. Now this should be lighter, so we'll come to our T to bring out our transform properties window, the one at the top, or you can come to your properties panel also. So adjust that to regular and come back V, Ctrl T to reduce, Ctrl T to bring out your transform control and reduce it. I think this is actually fine, there's no need to reduce. Let's commit. Then this and this to select the two layers, align to the left. Then let's zoom in and bring it closer. Select this layer, bring it a bit to the top while holding on shift. When you are moving, you hold on shift so that it moves in a straight line, up or down, right or left. Alright, so while holding on shift, we move up. Then we select the two layers, Ctrl T to bring out that transform control. Then I'll reduce the size like so. I think this is fine. Ctrl G to do both the Central Youth Fellowship and the church name text. Then we can bring the two closer to our logo here. Yeah, I think that is fine. and can select the tool. Where's our logo? Select our logo and group both. So you name it logo and church name. How do you group? Remember, Ctrl G to group. I know I've said many of these things a lot of times and I'm repeating them, but repetition is actually the way we learn. So when you hear things repeatedly, it kind of sticks to your head. So Ctrl T, bring out a transform control, reduce the size, bring it around here. Alright, now we need our Central Youth Conference 26 text, and we can duplicate this Christ Gospel Mission International text. So we'll come here, Christ Gospel Mission INC, Ctrl G to duplicate, then drag it out of the entire group so that you can use it independently. Then move it to the left, and then you type whatever it is you want to type. Central Youth Conference 25. Let me use 25. Then we have this here. Now I'm going to make sure, because in case I've moved it this way, I need to make sure they are aligned. Remember our principles and elements. Alignment is very important. This text is aligned to the center, the grade is aligned, the grace is aligned, and these two need to be aligned vertically. So we select the two, then we'll come to the top here, select this entire group. Make sure you have the correct one selected, or you can just come to the layers panel here, click on logo and church name, click on this also, control click, so you can select two layers together, then align vertically. Let's bring it to the top a little bit while having the two selected. Right, that's good. Now you can select the two again, Ctrl G to group, and rename it as header. Now we have inside our header, we have the Central Youth Conference text, and we have the logo and church name group. And inside that folder again, we have this text and the logo. So our design is actually structured. It's complex, but because we've grouped it, when we close the main folder, everything collapses and it looks simpler overall. So selecting this header, we want to center it vertically with the entire artboard. So we come here to center to artboard. You see it moves just a little bit. Now you might think, oh, it was centered before, you wouldn't notice, but it's actually not centered. You have to make sure you come here and do it, center it vertically to the artboard. And I'm going to ask you to do this. You can take a screenshot of it now because you're going to be doing it yourself. This part of the design you are trying to replicate, the date and time and the location. So make sure you add it to your design. And this is going to be like the real assignment. These vertical lines, are you going to use the line tool under the rectangle tool, or you're just going to use a rectangle? Then you are going to reduce the width. Anyhow you do it, just make sure you do these parts of the design on your own. So we'll go online again. PNG Wink is actually the website I go to get PNG resources for free. PNG Wink, and we have this. Let's search for cloud. Alright, this is fine. I'm going to click on this. It says download this PNG. Click alphabets in order and download. You have GR5B. So GR5B. You have to do that to be able to download. Alright, let me save it to so I can click on this and drag it into my design, reduce the size, enter, make sure it's in the artboard. Let me bring it down here, and then I'm going to change the blending mode from normal to screen. Alright, so I'm going to duplicate that again, then duplicate again, so have it somewhere around here. And lastly, there is a bit of light effects that I added to this design initially. So I'm going to create a new layer. And how do you create a new layer? You can come here to this plus, create a new layer, or you can use Ctrl+Shift+N to create a new layer. Let's name it light flare and click on OK. So we come to B to select our brush to change this from white to somewhere around here between deep orange and yellow. Yeah, that's the flare we are trying to create. Okay, make sure it's selected here, then click on OK. Let me increase the brush size and change this layer, this light flare layer from normal, change the blending mode from normal to screen, right? So I'm going to add the effects. I'm just going to click on my artboard and you can see those subtle effects are showing up. You can see they are showing up here. Alright, where else do we need it? Yeah, I think it's fine here this way. Right, so now you just do this last part of the flyer design, export it, share it on social media. If you came across any issues at all, you can drop it in the comments. You can reach out to me on any of my social media handles that I'll put in the description to ask your questions and I'll make sure I answer. Alright, see you in the next video. Enjoy.